Shorter week than usual due to Good Friday, but still a lot of news, mainly surrounding Trump. End of the week, we got a few surveys that did not really flatter Trump and his administration. We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about Google's really lousy week. Not performance-wise, but a lot of lawsuits. NVIDIA, chips. What a week. And that's nothing compared to what's expected in the next week, which is going to be a lot more dramatic. One, because it has 5 trading days, but 2, because we're going to hear a lot of new things that might happen. So hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new, hi, my name is Micha. Nothing here is financial advice. Everything is for entertainment and, of course, educational purposes only. This is the channel called Stock Talk with Micha Stocks. And if you're new, it would be amazing if you can subscribe to the channel and, of course, turn notifications on. This is how the market ended. The Russell ended on the green side, plus 1%. Then the S&P down 1.5%, NASDAQ down 2.3%, and the Dow down 2.6%. Indices, look at them. Real estate up 3.3% for the week. Consumer staples up 1.8%, and the utilities up 1.5%. On the flip side, technology down hard 5%, 5.5%. Discretionary 3.7%, and communication down 2.47%. Crypto doesn't do anything. We're going to talk about it at the end. The fact that the Bitcoin today is, you know what? I'll start with the ending. Bitcoin, the last 14 days, was less volatile than Apple stock. Let that sink in. So that is the crypto market. When we go to commodities themselves, you can see that crude oil up, gold up, silver up. On the flip side, natural gas down 9.7%. Lousy 8. Google down 5%. Microsoft down 6%. Apple down almost 7%. Tesla down 7%. Amazon down 7.5%. Broadcom more and more and more. And of course, NVIDIA down 10.85%. Fear and greed were still very, very fearful. Extreme fear at 21. And that, of course, connects us directly to this week when Wednesday we got the AAII being again bearish, 56.9% bearishness. People are bearish. And that bearishness is why I think we're going to get some kind of good news. We are now, according to Beth Kindig, at the 97th percentile or higher of all weekly surveys going back to 1970. We are so bearish. And that bearishness trickles down to the American public. Look at Trump's ratings. Look at the percentage points. He is now down lower than Trump 1.0. President handling the economy, look at the red line. Tumbling. People are not happy at all. We're going to talk about it. It's not only political. It's not only Democrats versus Republicans. Going to explain in a second. Approval rating, look at this. 45%, down under 50%. Disapproval going up. And when being asked different questions, you can see that they have negative opinion on the government. Have they heard unfavorable business news? They did. Expect business conditions to worsen. They expect it to worsen. And, of course, they expect their income to go lower. Why is that happening? And again, why am I mentioning it's not totally Republican and Democrat? Trump 1.0 won mainly by hardcore Republicans. Mainly how he won Trump 1.0. Trump 2.0 won by, of course, hardcore Republicans, but also moderates. That's why he won in a landslide. Now, these moderates are not part of the MAGA, let's call it hardcore Republicans. They expected, the market to go up, inflation to go down, things being happy. They don't care that the government has this amount of debt and it needs to be dealt with. They don't care about tariffs and all the imports and exports. They don't care about that. They have the regular life. And the regular life is being impacted. Everything is connected to one. Now, why am I mentioning that? And this is not a political channel, but why am I mentioning that? Because these approval ratings are things that hurt President Trump. He's looking at them. He doesn't like being on the negative side of approval rating. He doesn't like being underneath Biden's approval ratings. And these are things that might expedite the recovery of the market. And that's why I see them not as a bad sign, but actually as a very good sign. Because we are now in a self-inflicting pain that is being done through actions of one person or one administration that can be turned around relatively quickly. But if it keeps going down the road, it would be more difficult to do that. So that's kind of my take on that. Let's go back to other things. Like President Trump is apparently discussing for the last few months how to fire Jerome Powell, going back to these things are not good for sentiment. He can't really fire Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell is a Congress nomination, but President Trump is looking how to do that. He is not happy with Powell. Powell is not doing what the president wants. Powell is focused on the economy and the president not listening to the president, and that drives President Trump crazy. He thinks he's not doing the job. He calls him by names. He's late to the party, etc., and late and slow. Also, talking about China, Trump states that China has reached several times that there are discussions between the US and China over the tariffs. And we will see in the next few weeks. I believe that in the next few weeks we will get some kind of resolution because the market cannot keep on going with this amount of uncertainty. One company that is feeling the uncertainty and, of course, the effects of Elon Musk being focused on Doge. Tesla delaying their US launch of affordable EV. Everyone expected it to happen in the next 2.5 months. Apparently, it's not happening according to rumors during the weekend. We might hear something else Tuesday when Tesla is reporting, but those are the things right now. Tesla also released new images of their in-house designed Dojo supercomputer. This computer is the one that is training the FSD, the full self-driving, in order for Tesla to be operational in 2.5 months. Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of India, talked to Elon Musk to see how he can bring manufacturing of Teslas to India. Of course, India needs to do a lot of changes on their tax side in order to bring Tesla in. And of course, if the Prime Minister wants that, it might happen. Apple, not a good time for Apple. Investors are not a good time for Apple as a company with all this trade war. Their sales in China is plummeting by 9%. With the tensions. And also, Tim Cook had conversations with Trump administration to try to understand where things are going. Companies cannot really operate that way. And we can see that in the stock as well. Ford is halting their shipments of F-150 to China. Again, they don't know how much tax they're going to pay. They can't keep on doing that. And let's talk about Google. US, judge finds Google illegal monopolies. UK, illegal monopolies. Japan, violation of antitrust. Google, not a good week for them. And not a good week for Nvidia either. With a $5.5 billion that they need to write off on inventory because they cannot sell H20 anymore to China. Trump's administration changed the approvals or the way to get the approvals, and now Nvidia will not be able. That flew Jensen directly to China to try to ease things and say, guys, I really want your business. I want the market. But right now there's a lot of turmoil. I will do whatever it takes to keep the relationship alive. He met, of course, the investors in DeepSeek and other government officials. SoFi expands their loan platform. $3.2 billion of expansion. Eli Lilly, not introduced, but actually had a successful test on their GLP-1 pill. This, of course, is a lot better than the current injections. It's easier to move, it's easier to sell, it's easier to manufacture, and of course, it can reduce prices at the end. We're going to talk about progress at the end. Intel also told their Chinese clients that they cannot sell anymore to China. AMD is probably gonna write off $800 million on products that they're selling to China. Apple is bringing more and more inventory to the US to try to avoid the tariffs. Donald Trump, after hitting, or before actually hitting with the new administration rules on exporting to China, actually is very glad that NVIDIA is committing $500 billion to build AI supercomputers in the US. If their sales will plummet and the stock will plummet, I don't think they're going to stand behind the $500 billion, but we'll see. That's why I'm saying I think that a resolution will come very quickly, because if not, that road will be very, very, very bumpy, and no one wants to go that route. At least I don't think that the president wants to. China halts their orders for Boeing. Boeing is a US company. They're not going to order for them. We talked about semiconductors. Netflix updates their employees that they want to double their market cap to $1 trillion by 2030. That means double the revenue and, of course, squeezing margins. We'll see. They reported on Thursday, very, very strong. On Thursday? Yeah, Thursday. Thursday? Yeah, very strong earnings on Thursday. We talked about that. And Rocket Lab secures key contract with US and UK hypersonic technologies, and now they're going to start competing with ASTS as well. NATO signs with Palantir, their first AI powered by Palantir. And last but not least, Archer is planning on using their new aviation, let's call it chopper or whatever it's called, to commute people between airports in the New York vicinity, whether it's from JFK, Newark, Teterboro, Rochester, and I don't remember which else. So around the New York area. That will bring us to next week. Before I start with companies that are reporting earnings, I want to start with at least what I believe we are going to get some kind of news during, whether it's the weekend or next week. I believe, or I even expect, deals to be signed. It's been too long, and we know there has been negotiations. We know that they're progressing. We know that some of them are very close to the finish line. I believe that the market is waiting for some kind of good news. And that's kind of a good news that the market is waiting. When more and more countries or more companies will know what the tariffs are with those countries, everyone will be able to plan forward. Right now, the market is stuck in a place where no one can plan what's the next steps. And that's uncertainty. The market hates uncertainty. I believe that we are going to get some relief this week, but we will need to hear those things. Otherwise, it's going to be another choppy week next week. We have a lot of earnings next week that basically is starting to ramp up. We get the interesting companies are Comerica and Capital City Bank on Monday. Then we have Verizon, GE Aerospace, Lockheed Martin and Raytown, Kimberly-Clark on Monday before the bell. Then we get Tesla, Intuitive Surgical, Enphase, SAP, Capital One, and Steel Dynamics. Wednesday, we hear from Boeing, AT&T, Checkpoint, Philip Morris, GE Vernova, and O'Reilly, Alaska, IBM, ServiceNow, Chipotle, Newmont, Texas Instrument, Lam, and Las Vegas Sands on Wednesday. And Thursday, we're getting from American Airlines, Southwest, Freeport, McMoran, Merck, PepsiCo. After the bell, Intel, Google, or Alphabet, T-Mobile, SLB, AbbVie, and Colgate. When you look at these companies and you look at your portfolio and you believe that everything fell during the week, I can tell you that during the year to date, I can tell you that in this slide, we have several companies that year to date, they're double digits up. Whether it's the cellular companies, Philip Morris, and others. So not everything is actually red for the year. Macro, we don't have something very dramatic on the macro side. And let's look at the S&P 500 represented by SPX. This is, of course, the average itself. What do we see? We see we have higher lows going down. We have lower lows, and we can see that we're going up here. We're basically going to the center of the apex, and we will need to see some kind of resolution on the S&P. If we go down, we might go down all the way to 5,000 or even 4,800. If we go up, we have resistance at around 54.80 and, of course, 55.66. But as I mentioned, I'll show you something very interesting. First of all, Bitcoin as a risk-on asset, you can see that it's stuck between 82 and 86. This is your compass. If you want to understand where the market is going, just look at the Bitcoin. If it's not moving, it's not moving. The interesting thing is you can see here the ATR. ATR is the average true range. It's an average of the movement in the last 14 days. Bitcoin ATR is 3.8%, meaning that Bitcoin moved 3.8% plus or minus during the last 14 days. Apple minus 5.3%, meaning that Apple was more volatile in the last 14 days than Bitcoin. That's how crazy the market has become. Very volatile, both sides, by the way, green and red, and we feel it in our portfolios. So we will meet again next week. If you haven't smashed that like button, that would be amazing if you can do that to help expose more people to this kind of content. Till next time, Micha Stocks saying bye-bye.